Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are taking on an artist whose career, well, it really defies simple categorization. An individual who's been equally successful navigating the rough and tumble world of stand-up, the prestige of Broadway, and, the high-stakes environment of Hollywood screenwriting.
Mm-hmm.
We are deep diving into the trajectory, controversies, and the remarkable versatility of Amy Beth Schumer.
And if you're looking for like a crash course in how to conquer virtually every medium in entertainment, Schumer's career really provides the blueprint.
Totally.
We've synthesized a massive profile of her work. It spans stand-up, acting, writing, producing, directing, to trace her evolution. Our source material, which we reviewed as recently as September 2025, gives us the essential facts, the milestones we need to understand an artist who uses, well, radical personal honesty as her creative engine.
Yeah, and our mission today is to really cut through the noise and synthesize these achievements for you, the listener. We're going to map the connections between her Peabody Award-winning sketch comedy and, her surprising Tony Award nomination.
Yeah.
Our goal is to understand not just what she did, but how the grit of her personal history and the resulting social commentary kind of defined her status in modern entertainment.
Exactly. And just to set the stage, Schumer, born June 1st, 1981, has consistently anchored her work in a very specific set of core subjects: interpersonal relationships, sex, the absurdity of everyday life, self-deprecation, current events, pop culture.
The big ones.
The big ones, yeah. She's a master of blending genres: observational comedy, blue comedy, sketch, insult comedy, satire. And it's the combination of these elements applied with this unflinching transparency that generates both her, immense critical recognition and often significant public debate.
Okay, so let's unpack this journey by examining her foundation, because the earliest years of her life feature this huge financial and familial, like a 180-degree turn that must have profoundly shaped her worldview.
Oh, absolutely.
She was born to considerable wealth, Upper East Side of Manhattan. Her father owned a baby furniture company. It paints a picture of a very privileged start.
It really does, but it did not last. And the abruptness of the shift is critical here. When she was just 9 years old, her father's business failed entirely. He filed for bankruptcy.
Wow, 9.
Yeah. And this massive economic dislocation was followed almost immediately by devastating personal news. Her father was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and then her parents divorced when she was 12.
That is just an economic and emotional trifecta, all happening during those really formative adolescent years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that kind of instability and exposure to loss, it must create the necessary fuel for that dark confessional comedy later on where nothing's off limits, right?
Absolutely. And the material change forced her to move with her mother to Rockville Center, Long Island. She attended Southside High School there.
Okay.
And even in high school, you see this duality that would later define her career. She earned the dual kind of conflicting titles of class clown and teacher's worst nightmare.
Okay.
Which illustrates, an early desire both to entertain and also to push against authority.
Makes sense. So after graduating in 99, she got formal training, earned a degree in theater from Towson University in 2003.
Right.
But the real-world hustle post-college, that seems essential to understanding her sort of street toughness. She came back to New York, studied at the respected William Esper studio for 2 years.
This is a big deal, yeah.
Exactly. And then entered that classic, non-glamorous phase of survival.
She was definitely a working class artist trying to make ends meet. She worked as a bartender, a waitress.
Yeah.
But there's a truly raw detail from the sources that really speaks to her resilience.
Okay.
She moved out to Santa Barbara, California for a time,
Okay.
working as a pedicab dryer, which is a physically grueling, low-paying job, while living with a boyfriend she later characterized as abusive.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, this is a far cry from the Upper East Side. It gives her a genuine lived-in perspective on difficult relationships and, well, class struggle.
And you see that grit emerge consistently in her comedy. But let's shift a bit to the more historical cultural roots, which are surprisingly vast.
They really are.
She was raised Jewish. Her father's family immigrated from Ukraine. Her mother converted before the marriage, and she has publicly recalled experiencing anti-Semitism as a child.
Right. And the complexity of her background doesn't stop there. Thanks to a deep dive they did on the show, Finding Your Roots, it was discovered that her mother, who had Puritan ancestry, actually connects way back to the colonial-era Massachusetts Bay Colony.
Okay, Puritan roots, interesting. But here is where it gets really interesting and unexpected. We're not talking about just standard colonial roots here.
Yeah?
Through the Tarbell family line, The show discovered that in 1704, 3 of her ancestors were captured in a French Abenaki raid in Massachusetts and taken captive to Montreal.
Right. And here's the stunning twist. 2 of the boys, the ancestors in question, were adopted and fully assimilated into the Mohawk community at Kanawakekwasazni.
Fully assimilated.
Fully. They married Mohawk women, and some of their descendants went on to become chiefs. I mean, this is a history that spans 3 continents and vastly different cultures. You've got Manhattan privilege, Ukrainian Jewish heritage, and Mohawk chieftain lineage.
How fascinating is that? An artist whose comedy relies so heavily on the current, immediate, personal reality carries a genealogy that is so deeply intertwined with early American colonial history and indigenous culture. It's wow.
It really speaks to the vastness of the American experience kind of condensed into one performer. And, to connect it back to contemporary politics, we also have to note her notable kinship.
Yeah.
She is the second cousin, once removed, of U.S. Senator and current Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer.
Right, the Schumer connection.
Yeah, and that political DNA, it definitely becomes relevant later in her career when she gets into activism.
Okay, so with that really complex background, let's pinpoint the moment the comedy officially launched. She had the formal theater degree, but the official debut of her stand-up career happened on her birthday, June 1st, 2004, at the Gotham Comedy Club.
Right, Gotham. But we should remember that even before that initial stand-up set, she was already testing her acting chops.
Ah, okay.
She portrayed a young woman diagnosed with breast cancer in an off-Broadway black comedy called Keeping Abreast. So that confirms her original ambition wasn't purely, observational stand-up. It was always tied to performance and character work.
Interesting. Now, the moment most people probably identified as her initial exposure was her appearance on the reality competition show Last Comic Standing.
Right, LCS.
She placed 4th in season 5 back in 2007. That show is like the ultimate crucible for stand-up talent.
It is, yeah. But interestingly, she noted that she approached LCS with what she called no pressure, maybe because she had tried and failed to audition for an earlier season.
Huh.
So this kind of low-stakes approach might have allowed her raw style to shine through, rather than trying to fit some kind of reality TV mold,
That makes sense. She later clarified, though, that the moment she felt she had truly broken through that big break was actually a Live at Gotham episode she did for Comedy Central.
Yeah, she pointed to that specifically.
And that distinction is important, I think. It suggests that breaking through on her own terms, with her authentic voice, felt more significant to her than just succeeding in a competitive environment.
Totally agree. And by the late 2000s, her media profile was growing rapidly. She co-starred in that reality show, Reality Bites, back in 2008.
Right.
And started racking up important guest roles, including appearances on some really prestige sitcoms and comedy series like 30 Rock, Delocated, Curb Your Enthusiasm, and Girls.
Wow, those are big gets.
Yeah, she was making the necessary connections in the New York and LA comedy scenes, definitely putting in the work.
And this period also saw the formalization of her comedic philosophy, right? She released the album Cutting in 2011, and the special Mostly Sex Stuff premiered in 2012.
Yeah, that title.
That material was foundational, and the name itself, Mostly Sex Stuff, pretty much tells you exactly which of her chosen genres she was leaning into hard.
Right. This is where the evolution of her blue comedy really became defining. She explicitly rejected what she termed the observational stuff. She wasn't interested in talking about, airport food or those mundane differences between men and women.
Okay.
Her stated preference was to tackle the darkest, most serious thing about yourself. And that mandate meant focusing heavily on life, sex, personal stories, and the societal contradictions that she felt audiences both related to and maybe often felt uncomfortable confronting.
That willingness to go dark and personal. Well, it made her a perfect fit for a particular type of comedy performance, the roast.
Oh, yeah.
Being able to deliver sharp, brutal, personalized insults is a whole different skill set than confessional stand-up. She appeared as a roaster on the Comedy Central roast of Charlie Sheen in 2011.
Which was huge.
And the Comedy Central roast of Roseanne Barr in 2012.
Those roasts provided crucial exposure and really demonstrated her versatility. And concurrently, she was beginning to make her first steps in feature films. She acted in those independent projects, Price Check and Sleepwalk with Me in 2012. And the more widely seen comedy drama, Seeking a Friend for the End of the World that same year. So by the close of this foundational period, she was no longer just a stand-up. She was really a multifaceted talent ready to take full creative control of her vision.
And the moment she gained that creative control really ushered in her peak period of critical and commercial success across multiple formats. That series, of course, was Inside Amy Schumer, which premiered on Comedy Central in 2014.
Yes. And what made the show so brilliant was its structure, which was just highly effective for her unique comedic blend. It wasn't just a standard sketch show, right?
Right.
It featured these single-camera vignettes where she played what she called heightened versions of herself, but it was all expertly linked together with footage from her own stand-up.
Yeah, it gave it this personal, almost documentary feel.
Exactly. And the show allowed her to pivot wildly between different comedic genres just in a single 22-minute slot. She could shift from biting feminist satire like that famous skit critiquing impossible beauty standards, "Girl, you don't need makeup,"
Oh, yeah, that was huge.
to raw blue comedy about relationships, all in one sitting. It was really something.
And the critical reception was just overwhelming. The series ran for 4 seasons until 2016 and was not just a ratings success, but an institutional one. It won the prestigious Peabody Award.
Which is huge recognition in media.
Huge. And most notably, the 2015 Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Variety Sketch Series. It won from 5 total nominations. This established her not merely as a comedian, but as, like, a significant social commentator.
Definitely. And that success immediately translated to the big screen, allowing her to make that really challenging leap from television writing to feature film screenwriting. In 2015, Trainwreck premiered.
Right.
And she not only starred in it, but also wrote the screenplay.
That decision to write her own vehicle was so key, wasn't it?
Absolutely. It ensured her authentic voice, the one honed in years of stand-up and sketch writing, dictated the narrative. The film was a critical and commercial smash. It earned her a Golden Globe nomination for Best Actress Motion Picture Comedy or Musical. It proved her deeply personal, often kind of chaotic, comedic style could actually sustain a feature-length narrative within the studio system.
And she really cemented her status as a leading woman with subsequent starring roles. Snatched in 2017 and I Feel Pretty in 2018.
Right. And it's important to keep underscoring her commitment to autonomy. She produced I Feel Pretty as well.
Good point.
This constant pursuit of creative control is really a defining motif. And we also know she was planning this incredibly high-profile collaboration, a film co-written with Jennifer Lawrence
Whoa.
and her sister, Kim Caramel, who's also a respected comedy writer and producer. Now, while the project was ultimately put on the back burner, the mere fact that she was initiating and co-writing a movie with another A-list star and her own writing partner just confirms her standing, right at the center of Hollywood's creative landscape at that time.
Absolutely. But perhaps the most surprising pivot during this peak period was her decision to dive into legitimate theater.
Yeah, Broadway.
In 2017-2018, she made her Broadway debut in the Steve Martin play Meteor Shower. That's a fundamentally different discipline than film or stand-up.
Totally different. And she didn't just participate, she excelled. She earned a Tony Award nomination for Best Actress in a Play.
A Tony nom. That's huge.
It's a massive distinction to be recognized for dramatic performance on the highest stage in live theater. And critics acknowledged this. One noted that the show would likely never have made it this far without the marquee draw of Schumer making her Broadway debut.
So she had power as a draw, too.
Demonstrating her power not just as a performer, but as a commercial force.
Absolutely.
And alongside her stage and screen work, she somehow found time for literary success. She penned the memoir The Girl with the Lower Back Tattoo in 2016.
Which was everywhere.
Which immediately validated her crossover appeal by hitting the #1 spot on the New York Times nonfiction bestseller list for 2 consecutive weeks.
And that book brought her another unique accolade, a Grammy nomination.
Right. In this period, she actually secured 2 Grammy nods. Best Comedy Album for Live at the Apollo in 2015, and Best Spoken Word Album for narrating her own memoir in 2016.
Okay, so Emmy, Tony nom, Golden Globe nom, 2 Grammy noms.
Yeah. The simultaneous recognition across all those major platforms truly underscores the breadth and, frankly, the undeniable success of this era for her.
All right, moving into the 2020s, the focus of her creative output seemed to shift a bit, leaning heavily into domesticity and what we've kind of termed radical health transparency. This was, in part, definitely a response to the global circumstances of the time, right? The pandemic.
Yes, exactly. The pandemic forced this creative reset for a lot of people. And for her, it led to Amy Schumer Learns to Cook on Food Network.
I remember that.
Yeah, it was an 8-episode show, self-shot, while she and her husband, Chef Chris Fischer, were quarantined. It offered this raw, almost accidental window into their domestic life, which contrasted pretty sharply with her normally polished, often much raunchier material.
Right, it felt different. And it was more than just a novelty cooking show, too. The sources highlight that she used the platform for advocacy, donating proceeds and awareness to organizations like the Coalition of Immokalee Workers' Fair Food Program.
That's right. It showed a commitment to blending her public profile with immediate charitable action. A nice touch.
Yeah. But the deeper shift, I think, came with her documentary work focusing on motherhood and health struggles. Expecting Amy, which premiered on HBO Max in 2020, that was a documentary series she created and executive produced, and it chronicled her extremely challenging, often really debilitating pregnancy journey, all while she was simultaneously preparing for a major stand-up special.
The level of intimate disclosure there was,
Yeah.
well, it became her trademark, really.
It did, and she continued this in her recent, more scripted output, too. She is the creator, writer, director, and star of the Hulu comedy series Life and Beth, which ran from 2022 to 2024.
Right. And, notably, her award-winning sketch show, Inside Amy Schumer, it actually returned in 2022 with 5 specials released through Paramount Plus after its hiatus. So she went back to that well.
Back to the well. She's also maintained a steady presence in feature films, appearing in the dramatic, critically praised ensemble film The Humans in 2021.
It was a different kind of role for her.
Yeah, definitely. And took a hilarious scene-stealing guest role as Eleanor Roosevelt in the romantic comedy Bros in 2022.
That was fun. More recently, she joined the massive ensemble cast for Jerry Seinfeld's film Unfrosted and has her upcoming film Kinda Pregnant set for 2025, which she also wrote.
Right, back to writing her own stuff. And crucially, she continues to direct her own stand-up specials, maintaining that full creative oversight. Her 2023 special, Emergency Contact, she directed herself.
Ensuring the delivery and presentation of her material remain entirely within her control. That seems key for her.
Yeah. And on the personal front, her health journey has become, like, intrinsically linked to her public persona. After marrying chef farmer Chris Fischer in 2018 and welcoming their son, Gene, in 2019, the difficult nature of her pregnancy was fully disclosed. Gene was born via C-section due to her struggle with endometriosis.
Right, and she did not shy away from the gravity of that condition. In September 2021, she publicly shared her decision to undergo a hysterectomy to alleviate the severe symptoms of endometriosis. Very open about it.
Extremely open. And this pattern of using her platform to shine a light on difficult chronic conditions continued very recently. In February 2024, she announced that she had been diagnosed with Cushing's syndrome.
Wow.
Utilizing her visibility once again to educate the public and normalize conversations around complex, often invisible illnesses. This consistent radical self-disclosure is really key to her current relevance, I think.
I agree. It's become a major part of her brand, for better or worse, depending on who you ask.
Okay, now we arrive at this pivotal, maybe the most complex section of her career, media perception, which is just defined by this massive gap between institutional recognition and, well, intense public controversy.
It's a huge gap. The institutional support is undeniable. In 2015, that high point of her sketch show success, she was recognized as one of Time magazine's 100 most influential people and one of Barbara Walters' 10 most fascinating people.
Big honors.
Huge. Her comedy was widely hailed for tackling significant social issues through comedy, specifically sex, feminism, commentary on rape culture, often achieving this through those viral, attention-grabbing Inside Amy Schumer skits.
Right. But we absolutely have to place that acclaim directly alongside the significant public criticism she has faced, particularly regarding social identity and race.
Yeah, that's unavoidable.
She faced substantial, sustained criticism in both 2015 and again in 2020 concerning what critics identified as a large blind spot around race.
And the specifics of that criticism are important for impartial reporting here. The allegations included the use of jokes involving race, claims of objectifying black men, and utilizing jokes that called Latina women crazy or relied on racial stereotypes.
Right. And this wasn't just isolated. It was a conversation that seemed to reemerge repeatedly regarding the content of her sketches and stand-up.
It did. Now, we also have to report her documented defense. In response to the 2015 criticism, Schumer released a statement on Twitter vehemently denying being racist. She argued that she uses dumb jokes involving race as part of playing a specific comedic persona, an irreverent idiot.
So, satire defense.
Essentially, yeah. Her defense was that she was using satire and character work to push boundaries, often self-deprecatingly, even if the material was perceived by some as offensive.
Okay. Then there is the major shadow cast by the joke-stealing allegations, which really reached a peak in 2016.
Ugh, yeah, that's the killer accusation for a comedian.
Totally. Several established comedians, notably Tammy Pescatelli, Kathleen Madigan, Wendy Liebman, and even Patrice O'Neill posthumously, accused her of lifting or heavily borrowing material.
And Schumer met these claims with a full-throated, very emotional denial. She even publicly offered to take a lie detector test to prove she never stole material.
I remember that.
While one accuser, Tammy Pescatelli, did initially apologize, she later retracted that apology, attributing the similarities instead to parallel thinking. But the controversy was amplified dramatically online. The sources note that a specific YouTube compilation showcasing alleged instances of overlap garnered over 9.4 million views.
Wow, 9.4 million.
Yeah, demonstrating the immense public reaction this specific controversy had. It really struck a nerve.
It's just remarkable to see an artist juggle such high-level creative recognition while simultaneously dealing with such intense public scrutiny and these really detailed allegations of impropriety.
It really is. Yet balancing this controversy is her highly visible public activism, which she definitely leverages using her platform.
Right. Following that devastating fatal shooting at a Louisiana showing of her film Trainwreck back in 2015.
Yeah, it's awful.
Awful. She became a serious advocate for stricter gun control laws and increased mental health funding, often appearing alongside her relative, Senator Chuck Schumer, to maximize her policy voice.
Using that connection, and her political action isn't limited to gun control. In 2018, she was arrested at the U.S. Capitol while protesting the controversial nomination of Brett Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court.
Okay, so direct action, too.
Direct action.
Yeah.
Furthermore, she's actively supported voter rights, working with the organization Voter Riders to raise awareness about voter ID requirements and encourage turnout.
And very recently, she took a stance on a major international conflict. In October 2023, she was one of over 700 Hollywood professionals who signed an open letter condemning Hamas and demanding the release of hostages held in Gaza. The letter was notable for specifically cautioning against what it called orchestrated misinformation campaigns on social media. So she consistently uses her platform to take visible, sometimes politically polarizing, stances on issues she cares about.
No question about that. She's not afraid to speak out.
So as we synthesize her career, we can clearly trace the lineage of her comedy, which I think provides context for the high-wire act she performs.
Yeah, looking at her influences is really telling.
Her stated influences read like a history of boundary-breaking female comedians. She cites giants like Wendy Liebman for her sharp wit, Carol Burnett and Lucille Ball for physical comedy and sketch work, Joan Rivers for pioneering that unapologetic, often dark humor.
Can definitely see the Rivers connection.
Totally. And she even called actress and producer Goldie Hawn one of her heroes. This highlights her appreciation for strong, pioneering women who demanded agency and visibility in comedy.
Absolutely. And if we just summarize the sheer scope of her accolades again, the diversity of her wins and nominations is truly pretty unmatched for a contemporary comedian.
It really is.
Oh.
We've discussed the Emmy win for Inside Amy Schumer for Outstanding Variety Sketch Series. We have the Tony nomination for Best Actress in a Play for Meteor Shower.
Then those Grammy nominations, Best Comedy Album and Best Spoken Word Album, confirming her ability to generate revenue and prestige from both performance and prose.
Right. On the film front, she has the Golden Globe nomination for Trainwreck, and she won the Critics' Choice Movie Award for Best Actress in a Comedy for that same film. Big wins there.
Definitely. And perhaps the most telling institutional accolade, which maybe often gets less attention than the Emmys or Tonys, is her 2015 win of the TCA Award for Individual Achievement in Comedy.
TCA Television Critics Association.
Exactly. And this particular award is voted on by critics and journalists who cover television professionally. So this puts her in a really select category of artists recognized not just by the industry itself, but by those who analyze the art form.
That's a significant one. But this brings us right back to the defining duality of her career, the radical polarization of recognition.
It's unavoidable.
We just listed the Peabody, the Emmy, the Tony nomination, the Critics' Choice, the TCA Award. I mean, honors that place her among the most respected, influential talents working today.
And yet, we must note the immediate juxtaposition. Simultaneously earning these highest measures of institutional support, she also collects formal measures of ridicule.
Right.
We have to include her 2024 Golden Raspberry Award, or Razzie, Win for Worst Supporting Actress for her role in the film Unfrosted.
You're Razzie. Okay.
She exists at the absolute highest and lowest extremes of the critical spectrum, sometimes within the same calendar year. It's kind of wild.
She is an artist who receives the highest critical honor from the Television Critics Association for her comedy, while simultaneously facing claims of joke theft and being awarded the Razzie. The existence of these two opposing realities is perhaps the most unique aspect of her legacy.
It has to be. It's fascinatingly contradictory. Tag outro.
So when we synthesize all the knowledge gained from the dramatic financial reversals of her childhood and her, unique Mohawk ancestry, all the way through her ability to achieve an Emmy and a Tony nomination while weathering these intense personal and professional controversies, we see a career defined by relentless transformation and the courage, really, to leverage her most vulnerable self.
Yeah, and what ultimately defines her unique appeal and critical lens, I think, is that recurring theme of radical self-disclosure we talked about.
Right.
Her work, whether it's her memoir, the documentary detailing her painful pregnancy and expecting Amy, or her very public discussions of chronic health struggles like endometriosis and Cushing syndrome, it places her unfiltered life directly in the spotlight.
Yeah.
That transparency is the high-risk gamble that gives her comedy its distinct, powerful, and, yes, often polarizing edge.
Well said. This leaves us with a provocative thought for you, the listener, to consider. Amy Schumer's career simultaneously earns her the highest accolades in entertainment. Emmy, Tony nominations, Critics' Choice Awards, and the most critical ridicule and formal dishonors, like the Razzie Award and those repeated, highly publicized joke theft claims.
Right, the full spectrum.
The full spectrum. So what does this extreme polarization, where an artist is considered both among the most influential and the worst in the same period, what does that tell us about the state of comedy today and the reception of personal, boundary-pushing humor in our current, highly charged media landscape? Something to think about.